no. I said, that's not what I heard. And she goes, well, what did you hear? And I said, I heard from Andrew Tate. He had been arrested. He was having a party. There was an American girl at the party in Romania. The girl was texting with her boyfriend. He said, well, I want you to leave the party. And she said, I can't leave the party. I'm not able to leave. And she stopped responding to his texts. He got nervous. He called the local police. The police came out. They arrested Andrew Tate. When they got her downtown, after they'd printed him and arrested him and his brother, I think it was him and his brother, the girl admitted that, look, I was at the party. I didn't want to tell my boyfriend that I didn't want to leave. And this is what I texted him. And they said, oh, okay. And they dropped the charges.
Okay.
So I said, now that got turned into other things and people are saying he's a sex trafficker. I said, but mostly people are saying that are basically women that hate him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dan doesn't even know who Andrew Tate is. And so she goes, that's not true. She goes, he was arrested. And I went, I understand he was arrested, but the charges were dropped. She goes, yeah, well, who knows why? I said, well, here's the thing, Joy. I said, if you arrest me for murder, you don't get to throw me in prison and keep me in prison forever. I said, there's due process. I said, so anybody can be accused of rape or anything, get arrested, then they go through the process. I said, obviously they didn't have enough to charge him. They dropped it. I said, so I'm not going to throw someone in jail, because she goes, he should be in jail. And I go, I'm not going to throw somebody in jail because you accused him of something.
Yeah.
You have to have proof.
Yeah.
You know, like it always sounds good when you're some young girl who's never been through the system, as opposed to, and then the next time somebody says, she did this and she did, and they arrest her, she'll be like, this is so unfair. What do you mean? I'm treating you the way you wanted to treat everybody else. So I say, yeah, that's not what I heard. That's not this. And I'm trying to be nice about it, bro. And then Dan,
I can see her already.
Dan throws in something, makes a comment about something and something else and says something. And then he says, you know, Matt, he goes, a year ago, no, I know. I said, look, just because you dislike the guy doesn't mean that everything he says is wrong. I said, I certainly don't believe in censorship. And she went, I don't think he should be censored. And she went, why? And I was like, I said, because you just shouldn't be censoring people. I said, just because you disagree with one thing that he said doesn't mean that everything. I've heard him say stuff that I disagree with. I've heard him say stuff that I do agree with. And she says, and Dan says, like what? And she says, like what? What do you agree with? And she's disgusted now, by the way, because I haven't been adamant that he should be hung and beaten to death. She's furious that he didn't get locked away in a Romanian prison, you know, because some girl accused or some girl's boyfriend, she didn't even say it, and they dropped the charges. So, okay. So I'm like, well, I'll give you an example. I said, I heard this and I thought this was kind of funny. And she goes, they were like, what's that? I said, for instance, I said one time he was saying, like, as a man, you have to work your entire life. You work your whole life. You'd make all the right decisions. You work hard. You work 68 hours a week. You save your money. You make the right calls. You take risks. You eventually end up buying $100 million. You've got tons of money. You end up building, like, you buy a $100 million yacht. As a woman, you can be a 22-year-old hot chick with a makeup kit, get on that yacht, and end up with it. And what I mean by that, I think is pretty obvious. She ends up hooking up with a guy. Maybe she gets pregnant. They get married. They get divorced. She ends up with a yacht. Like, that's pretty self-evident. And they're like, what does that mean? I go, in my experience, as a woman, as an attractive woman, you can get a lot from a guy. Mm-hmm. You can get a lot in general.
Amber Heard.
Listen, and so now she's furious. She's disgusted. And she goes, what? And she's just like, and I go, look, let me give you, I said, she goes, in my experience, that's not the case at all. I've worked hard for what I've got. I did. And I said, I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that you've worked hard for what you have. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in general, it's possible. And I said, let me give you an example. An example of this would be, I said, I met my wife, my ex-wife. I said, I met my ex-wife. She came in the office, filled out a thing. I asked her out. We went out a couple of times. 2 months later, she's pregnant. She gets pregnant. The alternative of her, having an abortion or whatever, like, that's not something I'm interested in doing. And she's like, well, then I want to get married then. I say, okay, we'll get married. If we get married, we'll get married. Then if it doesn't work out, we'll get a divorce. We get married. I said, I end up buying her 54 rental properties over the course of a year, all fraud.
Mm-hmm.
In her name, she's got over a couple $1 million worth of real estate at this point. Things go bad for me. I get arrested. I'm not going to be providing income. She's not interested. It's a bad marriage. We break up. We get a divorce. I give her $100,000, pay off her credit cards, pay off her car, give her a couple $1,000s a month for child support. She keeps all the real estate and the house, everything. I walk away with my clothes after 3 years. And I look at Joy and I said, do you know what she did to acquire all of that? And she goes, what? I said, she was pretty.
She married you.
And she married me. I said, so my experience is that a woman has the option. A pretty woman can get pretty far. I said, and now she's furious. Now, that's my experience. I know lots of guys who have been taken to the cleaners. Like, that's a real thing. Mm-hmm. You can look it up. How many people do you know?
Tiger Woods.
Well, not just that, but look.
It's still good, though.
It's unfair. It's unfair that if you and I, not you and I, but me and some woman, we meet, she gets pregnant. I don't want to have the baby. She says, I'm going to have the baby. She has the baby. I now have to pay child support from here on out. Like, that's not fair. But if she says, I don't want to have the baby, she can have an abortion. Mm-hmm. I can say, no. You can't. I want to keep that baby. I'll keep it. I'll raise it. You can pay child support.
You don't think it's fair that you should have to pay child support if you get a girl pregnant, just a baby?
No, I don't think it's fair that
it's her.
That it's her decision.
Yeah.
What you're telling me? The girl's pregnant,
yeah.
And I say, listen, I don't want to have anything to do with the kid. Have an abortion, and she says no. Okay, well, I don't want to have a baby.
Well, you're the one who fucked her and got her pregnant.
She wasn't there. She's 50%. Wasn't she 50% there?
Yeah,
she should have been on the pill. She should have said wear a condom. She could have contributed too. She was a part of it. We're 50-50 in this.
Right. She wants the baby.
Then you can have the baby. Why should I have to pay child support if I don't want to have the baby? You're making me have to pay the right. You see, it's a double standard. If I say, fine, have the baby, I'll take the baby. You don't want anything to do with the baby. You don't have an abortion. I'll take the baby, and you have to pay me child support. That's the reverse. But guess what? That's not okay with you.
That's what you're saying.
Right. Now, I get it. Society, that's the way it is. It's a double standard. I get it. That's fine. I'm okay. I'll pay child support. My point is, people don't look at it that way. So what I'm saying is I have this conversation with Joy. She then starts talking about white men having privilege. And I agree, there's been some privilege there absolutely. And so we have that conversation. I said, but Joy, the problem is, I said, you're making it sound like she just hated all white people, all white men, hated them all. They were all wrong. They all got preferential treatment. If they had anything, it's because they stole it from someone. And I'm like, the problem is, I said, I know lots of guys that simply worked hard, came up with an invention, came up with some kind of a system, came up with a business, worked hard, and made a lot of money. I said, now, whether they're white or black doesn't make a difference. I know people like this. I'm sure there are black people that the same thing has happened. So at this point, I backed myself into a corner I couldn't get out of.
Yeah, you're done.
At this point, she's now telling me that I'm a racist.
Yeah,
she's telling you this?
Oh, she's saying, not just that, listen, this was when I stopped talking. At this point, when she said, it's racism, it's misogynistic, and I'm like, what are you talking about? She ends up saying, and she goes, you don't have any idea. She's that woman on the boat that you were talking about? I went, yeah. And I'm keeping my composure. She's not. So she goes, that woman on the boat, she goes, not just is that unfair. She goes, she goes, for one thing, she goes, and she's in danger. And I went, she's in what? She goes, she's in danger. And I went, being on that boat with some old white guy. And I went, what are you talking? Nobody said anybody was in danger. She went on the boat voluntarily. She ends up hooking up with the guy voluntarily. She chose that. And she's, no, she's in danger. And I looked at her and I went, Joy, by that logic, I go, every woman everywhere is always in danger. And she goes, exactly. That's it. Now you get it. And I went, okay. Yeah. Okay.